Ajay Naik and Associates and Vidhi Ved presents today's live webinar on the topic New Challenges Before Junior Advocates. Law, a noble profession. It is generally forgotten that law is a profession. It is not commercial undertaking operating on the law of demand and supply, enabling lawyers to charge exorbitant fees. It states that lawyers live on love and fresh air. However, law in essence is a service oriented profession. The pandemic and lockdown is revealing deep income disparities in the law practice, more specifically to the junior advocates. The vast majority of lawyers depend on fresh filings and hearings for their income. With only urgent matters listed for hearing, that too through video conferencing, virtual courts, lawyers are finding it tough to sustain in the law practice in the current scenario. The ongoing experiment has, however, indicated that the major problem faced with the online courts is unfamiliarity with the medium of complex technology communication. What counts as an urgent matter is left to the discretion of the court officials. In lower judiciary, the district courts, the taluka courts, civil and as well as criminal courts are not hearing the matters. Family courts, revenue courts, quasi-judicial authorities, cooperative courts, consumer forums, labor and industrial courts, debt recovery tribunal, appellate tribunals, office of the charity commissioner have also seen their work pinned to a halt. In this precarious situation, junior advocates are facing economical and psychological distress. The ups and downs, the unequal mix have been exacerbated in this lockdown period. The reality and the hardships of economics is brutal. These young advocates are now interpreting the law practice as an emancipating profession. Social distancing is here to stay for a long and will profoundly change the way in which justice is delivered. Post-lockdown, justice delivery will certainly undergo a major transformation and judges, lawyers and litigants will need to adopt to the new and to be the normal. Law and jurisprudence are not static but mirror societal needs and often shape them. It is necessary to open and understand the distressed minds of these young advocates so that they are not left behind in the law race and the bar and bench takes the cognizance of these distressed minds for preparing a map that these young advocates can meet. The session will be delivered in English and will be concluded in Marathi. The interaction session of question and answers will be taken in English, Marathi and Hindi. With this, I conclude and I request Advocate Mr. Prashant More to take over.
Good evening, everyone. As communicated to all, we have former Lordship of R. Bombay High Court, Sri S.C. Dharmadhikari, as a resource person to deliver a speech on the topic title, which is labeled as New Challenges Before Junior Advocates. To say a few words about Justice Dharmadhikari, I would say that Justice Dharmadhikari is a graduate of Bombay University, enrolled to bar as an advocate in the year 1983, and further elevated as a judge of the Bombay High Court in the year 2003. He functioned as a judge of the Bombay High Court till February 2020, that is this year. While working as a judge of the Bombay High Court, several significant and landmark judgments on variety of disputes and issues are passed by Justice Dharmadhikari. We are really thankful being a legal patrons. Besides holding the splendid achievements in the legal province, He is having a strong family background, which has contributed a lot to the society. His father, Honorable former Justice, Acting Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, Mr. Chandrasekhar Dharmadhikari, was Padma Bhushan awardee in the year 2003. He was independent activist, an eminent lawyer, author who has done plentiful valuable writing in the social sphere. That despite of being into legal profession, the family has been found maintaining their reef knot always with the socially concerned issues. Thus, to sum up, I would say that truly we are fortunate enough to have a fit and most appropriate dignitary before us today. With these four words, I am requesting Sri S.C. Dharmadhikari sir to commence with the today's session.
I'm thankful to the host for giving me this opportunity to meet the junior advocates and speak to them. On the previous occasion, after conclusion of my interaction, I found that there were quite a few junior advocates concerned as they were about the future of their practice, seeking to intervene and ask questions about how they should go, about how should they go and proceed with their professional activities post the lockdown or even during the course of the lockdown. Broadly, the junior advocates were concerned about the financial crunch, loss of work, and loss of the opportunity to act, appear, and plead. Now, the first and foremost issue here is legal practice or practice as an advocate confined to or restricted to appearance in court and arguing cases? Is oral argument before the court the only aspect that the profession covers? The profession says it is a practice of law. Once it is a practice of law, the practice includes advising the litigant about approaching the court or otherwise, preparing, if he decides to approach the court, his case, and thereafter completing the formalities of filing of the case, and finally the presentation before the court. Now, I do not know in what sense the advocates are feeling the financial crunch. Have advocates been reduced to mere spectators? They cannot participate any longer in the professional activities. Are clients not approaching them? Are clients not contacting them at all? Are clients not seeking opinion and advice? Today, in this modern age, one does not think that the client is unable to contact his advocate completely. It may be he may have some problems, but eventually he will connect. After he connects and narrates his problem, it is entirely for the advocate to decide what advice to tender to him. Before the advice is tendered, advocates are expected to study the papers, have a thorough discussion, and then tender their advice. It may result in a case being filed in the court, or it may not. But the activity that the advocate undertakes and indulges himself in is nonetheless a professional activity. He may get paid for it immediately, he may get paid in advance, or he may not get paid. That ultimately depends upon the client's capacity, his financial capacity. However, we should not feel that the money that is going to come after a particular time or some delay is not eventually going to come at all. There are quite a few experiences as a junior advocate one goes through, but one must learn now with the changing times to secure oneself even financially. If some advance can be sought, it will be better. But if the advocates are unable to seek at least part of the fees as an advance, then they are entitled to request the client to forward the fees, and immediately, if not after some time on tendering of the advice. If the matters have to be sent to the advocate further for filing the case in the court, it is clear that the client has to prepare himself. He will have to arrange for court fees if it is a civil suit. If it is other type of litigation, he will still have to secure the advocate his further fees. Now, these are matters which can continue irrespective of whether the courts are functioning or not. However, what I am concerned is a more fundamental. I am concerned with the more fundamental issue, and that is that we must understand that we are part and parcel of the administration of justice. I had already impressed upon you that this is a sovereign and regal function of the state. The other misgiving we must immediately clear, and the impression that most people hold that the government and the judiciary are one and the same. It is the government's or the executive's adjudicatory function which the judiciary discharges. Sorry, this is not how the judiciary must be perceived. Judiciary is an organ of the state. There's a difference here. State includes the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. The judiciary is not an office, department, or arm of the government. The judiciary is not an extension of the executive's quasi-judicial or administrative, much less administrative duties. It is possible that the executive also is obliged to discharge the functions like the administrative functions, the quasi-judicial powers which it exercises by following the principles of natural justice or applying the law. But that does not mean that it performs the role of a judiciary. It does not take over the judicial functions at all. Judicial functions are an independent, impartial, and autonomous exercise. The judiciary is a last resort of the common man. When he fails to get justice from the executive, from every official, administrative, and executive functionary, he will only trust the judges and the court. He will only trust his advocate and would expect him to present his case in order to enable him to get justice. Therefore, the lawyers and advocates must understand that together we are all trustees of the people. This is a power which is like all powers in the nature of a trust. A judge is a trustee, an advocate is a trustee, and the officers and the staff of the court are trustees. We hold his power in trust for the people. We must not allow our shoulders to droop so easily. If we drop everything and sit dejected, frustrated, simply because we are unable to attend a court or present a case, we would be doing disservice to this noble profession. The courts may start functioning gradually. I am not at all concerned with the debate that is going on. The debate is that physical hearings must commence and the judges and the court must function to its full strength, that the cases must be taken in the order in which they are listed, on the dates on which they are listed, and they must be called out seriatim. That is the expectation of the litigants and the advocates. However, the functioning is not going to be full. The functioning is not going to be to its complete strength. There are some issues and difficulties. We do not have a complete control over the pandemic. We do not have complete infrastructure with us. The number of cases the government expects to rise. And when people are suffering from an infectious disease, they would give priority to the health. The government also is one of the largest litigants. It is a major litigant in the courts. Therefore, on one side, we have the government as an opponent. With all these practical, pragmatic, administrative difficulties, it may take some time for the courts to take up the matters or by working full time. It may also take some time for the staff to resume in full strength. It may also take some time for the advocates to gather and present their arguments before the court. This is going to happen shortly. We will have to be a little patient. As Mr. Vaghani was voicing the grievance of some of the colleagues in the profession, there may be a little more wait. But friends, that is not my concern. My concern is this lack of interest, enthusiasm of the junior advocates. I do not know why they are feeling dejected, frustrated, depressed, and there is negativity all around. The social media, the print and the electronic media may print news and publish and circulate the information that it seeks to provide to the public at large, that the advocates have suffered immensely in this lockdown. The losses, like an industrial concern or a commercial venture, are being computed in terms of money. This possibly gives an impression to those who may not be earning that there is no hope, that we do not know whether the profession will give us the opportunity to earn anything, much less our living. We should not proceed on these lines. It is true that none of us have witnessed a lull of this magnitude. We have not witnessed something when the courts are like this, when the courts were non-functional. The functioning was minimal. It was restricted to those who could access the courts by the electronic means, the electronic media, or by the use of information technology. Not everybody can afford this, and I can understand. However, when we do not have this arrangements with us, it is not possible to share this with fellow advocates, then there is bound to be a loss of opportunity. The greatest pleasure is to go in a court building in that attire and address arguments before the court. The judge asking questions, the opponent's interjection, all this is not only interesting but at times thrilling. If one is missing the thrill, then a little more patience and a little more wait will bring back everything like this in our profession. Today, the concern should be whether the vested interests who are waiting for such an opportunity or such state of affairs which best suit them can take things in their hands. If the people at large, the public in general, the litigants in particular, believe the propaganda that courts of justice are no longer dispensing justice and things are at standstill, nothing is going to move, our cases are never going to be taken up, let us search for something else to obtain a favorable result. Then friends, this is going to be the end, an end which nobody would want to see. We will see then more injustice, no rule of law, no protection and safeguarding of human, legal, and fundamental rights, total anarchy. Nobody should and would desire such a result. We have to therefore wake up and prepare ourselves to face new and fresh challenges. We must not allow the trust and faith of the public to erode, and the system to collapse totally. May I remind you as to how the Supreme Court approaches this whole vexed issue. In a judgment reported in AIR 1994 Supreme Court, R.G. Shinde versus State of Maharashtra, the Supreme Court quotes Justice Arthur J. Vanderbilt and says that it is the courts and not in the legislature that our citizens primarily feel the keen, the cutting edge of the law. If they have respect for the work of their courts, their respect for law will survive the shortcomings of every other branch of the government. But if they lose their respect for the court, for the work of the courts, their respect for the law and order will vanish with it to the great detriment of society. The Supreme Court further says that respect for law is one of the cardinal principles for an effective operation of the Constitution, law, and a popular government. The faith of the people is the source and succor to invigorate justice intertwined with the efficacy of law. The principle of justice is ingrained in our conscience. And though ours is a nascent democracy, which has now taken deep roots in our ethos of adjudication, be it judicial, quasi-judicial, or administrative as hallmark, the faith of the people in the efficacy of judicial process would be disillusioned if parties are permitted to abuse its process and allowed to go scot-free. It is but the primary duty and highest responsibility of the court to correct such orders at the earliest and restore the confidence of the litigant public in the purity of fountain of justice, remove stains on the efficacy of judicial adjudication and respect for the rule of law, lest people would lose faith in the courts and take recourse to extra constitutional remedies, which is a death knell to the rule of law. Therefore, if we approach the problem with this viewpoint, with this whole thing in mind, I do not think that we should ever feel dejected. We would not feel frustrated or out of work or in a deep financial crunch. We are part and parcel of a larger service which is rendered to the litigant and to the public. It is not just the litigants who approach the court, but the public at large who is watching the court proceedings with deep interest. It is an open court, and open court is one where justice is administered, and justice is administered in such a manner that it is not only done, but seen to be done. Ultimately, it is a court of justice, and justice, as is known, is the constant and perpetual will to render to everyone that to which he is entitled. As Cicero says, the disposition of the human mind to render everyone his due. Friends, today what we are witnessing is also a criticism of the judicial system and its functioning. From the top court to every other court, a systematic attempt is made to create disillusionment, to ensure that the public does not trust the system any longer. Who will benefit if all this is perpetuated? And the disadvantage will be that none, including the lawyers, would then be able to assert their rights. Ultimately, we are part of the citizenry. We must be aware of another warning that the Supreme Court has given us way back in 1994. It says that when law ends, tyranny begins. Legislation begins where evil begins. The function of the judiciary begins where the function of the legislature ends. For good life, morality is necessary, and to maintain morality, legislation is a must. Legislation is the framework which is required to be made for good life. When the laws are administered, as Lord Macaulay says, when the good system of law and police is established, when justice is administered cheaply and firmly, when idle technicalities and unreasonable rules of evidence no longer obstruct the search for truth, a great change for the better may be expected, which shall produce a great effect on the national character. This is how the judiciary works, functions, and is expected to operate and function. Once we are part and parcel of this judicial system, there is no way out, friends. If there is no way out, then how does one conduct oneself? That's the next question. Before I come to that, I must tell you there is something which is not known. Although, as we always say, common sense is most uncommon. We do not know and think in those terms. We also do not know how to think at all. If one can think, it is only when one has some thought. If you do not have the capacity to think, you will not have thoughts. You must understand that health, well-being, and something like this is not given to you by doctors, by the medical profession. How does one see this? Heal means putting right everything. What do you mean by health service? It is the public service providing medical care. Just see the difference. What do you mean by healthy or health? Health is the state of being well in body or mind. Healthy is having, showing, or promoting good health. Now, the WHO says this, World Health Organization, none others, that health as a state of physical and social well-being must be seen as not merely absence of disease. So diseases will come and go, whether contagious or infectious. Being healthy is different. You can't be healthy only if you go and trust the doctors. Doctors will prescribe medicines, give you some treatment after a proper diagnosis. But that is when you can contact a disease. For being healthy, you will have to develop your body and your mind. You must think positively. You must also be keeping your body fit. You should be physically and mentally fit. I'm sure the members of the legal profession, like others, have utilized this time and to improve their fitness. They have inculcated a regime, followed discipline, so that there are good results and positive results as far as their health is concerned. If health is wealth, then the other thing, namely the money, the financial wealth, will definitely come. When you are part and parcel of the administration of justice, there is another thing that you must know, that when you have a litigant or when you have an opponent in the form of government or government bodies or the local authorities, there is plenty of opportunity to approach a court and to argue cases. The injustice that one suffers at the hands of the government and the government organizations, government bodies, local authorities is immense and huge. People suffer silently. On occasions, they do not even contact a police station, the district collectorate, the municipal authorities, leave alone an advocate. If we, as members of a noble profession, as truly professional, which means ethical, which means competent, are going to say that despite all these sufferings and pain of the litigants or the general public, we are not going to help them merely because we are passing through a phase of no court, no opportunity, no money, then what will happen? There will be a total breakdown. It will be a breakdown of the constitutional framework. You must also appreciate that we, the people of India, have given ourselves this constitution, which has part and parcel of its basic structure an independent judiciary. We must do everything to ensure that the constitutional framework does not break down. How does one do it? That is when you practice truly as a professional. What do you mean by professional? Having knowledge or skill, not only that makes you a professional, but you must be worthy, you must be competent, and you must be ethical. The word practice means the actual application or use of a plan or method as opposed to the theories relating to it. All of us have learnt our theories. Now it is the time to apply these theories. And how does one get an opportunity to apply this? We must understand that advocacy is an art. Advocacy means a verbal support or argument for a cause. Advocate is a person who supports or speaks in favor, a professional pleader in a court of justice. Justice means just conduct, fairness, the exercise of authority in the maintenance of right, acting or done in accordance with what is morally right or fair. The advocate is therefore a professional and he is concerned with a cause in a court of justice. A professional to whom every cause should be dear. He should not bother about the hierarchy of courts. When we talk of virtual hearing, when we talk of cases being listed as urgent or otherwise not being so listed, we are talking in terms of only the practices prevailing in the top courts or the higher courts. At the lower court level, if we are presenting a case, we are filing it, and if we want to make an application for an urgent relief, we will have to make it in writing. We will have to make out a case for an out of turn hearing of an urgent application. You know that the applications are for injunction, and that is one part. There are other interlocutory reliefs also covered by Order 39. The remuneration for all this should be viewed as secondary. When we take the larger picture or the larger perspective in mind, as I said just now, then our primary concern should be our performance, our proper etiquettes, our thorough and in-depth study of facts and the applicable law. We should not depart or deviate from ethics. We have seen that the Indian Constitution is the mother of all laws. Those practicing at the trial court level do not wish to read the Constitution in depth. On most occasions, I find that when interlocutory applications are argued, the foundation for the argument is that there should be a fair opportunity, that principles of natural justice which are inbuilt in the Code of Civil and Criminal Procedure, the Evidence Act, should be followed to the hilt, and that a litigant must have full opportunity to present his case. After that, the judgment or orders must be delivered. Now, this minimal expectation can be fulfilled provided the cause is presented in a truly professional manner with full preparation and study which is in depth. Now, this is the part which you should be concentrating. Three things have happened, friends, as far as this COVID is concerned. After 24th March, when the lockdown was imposed, there was a general talk, very vague, that we have to bring the number of cases to zero, that we have to stop the multiplication, that we must see that there are minimal or very few deaths. After that lockdown was extended 1, 2, 3, 4 times, the talk has changed. The Chief Minister of the state of Maharashtra confessed that the lockdown did not give an opportunity to those workers who had no work, no food, no money to leave cities and metro cities. If they had been given some time to leave the city, possibly a fortnight, we could have avoided the exodus of the migrants, as the popular phraseology is, from the cities to villages. The second confession that came was It is true that fear was instilled in the minds of the public. Unless this fear was instilled, people would not have followed the discipline. The people would have moved out and without any reason or cause, crowded places, and the disease would have spread. Now, if this was a fear which was created without any basis, then for us, this is a golden opportunity. These two admissions or confessions, coupled with the fact that the Prime Minister of India admits that great misery, suffering, and pain was experienced by the poor and the migrants, we must know that the activities, and particularly financial and economic activities, came to a standstill. Quite a few contracts, quite a few promises, assurances have been broken. The assurance that is inbuilt in the relation of master and servant, of one engaging somebody for work, the other giving work, and the one taking or extracting the work, making honest and proper payment or remuneration or wages, is broken. The two parties to this contract can come together tomorrow and say that this was a situation brought about not by their act or by their doing. It was solely because of the state's mishandling of this pandemic. Now, this cannot be done unless both sides have capable legal advice and opinion. Who will do that? The competent upcoming junior lawyers. There are poor people awaiting, approaching you. They want an access to justice. Will you not provide them that? How, if you are a dejected lot, will you be able to do this and competently? You must ask this question to yourself. There are several issues which crop up now. People have suffered at the hands of the state, the local bodies immensely. The classification which was made during the course of lockdown, what activities can be carried on, what activities must be stopped altogether, what can resume, in what manner, and for how long. All this has given rise of and to serious cases of violation of fundamental and legal rights. People feel that as traders, as consumers, as everybody who is concerned with the day-to-day affairs, he has been at the receiving end. Traders feel that there are undue restrictions on them. Traders feel that we have to fear the police machinery. People feel that we cannot move out freely for fear of the police. We could not go and shop, even for essential goods. They were also not accessible. Essential services were not accessible. Leave alone, we on occasions could not even get access to medical care, the public health care systems. Now, all these are matters which give rise to claims of compensation. The damages and suffered, the losses suffered will have to be compensated. But by whom? After this, people are bound to approach you, seek your advice and opinion, and ask you whether this can be a cause enough to be taken to court, fit enough to be presented, and fit enough to be argued with full vigor so as to claim a compensation or damages from the state. Somebody has brought about a breach of contract, a contract in writing, a solemn assurance, and which has not been broken by parties or breached or violated in any manner by them. The contract was continuing. A continuing contract has been interfered with unreasonably, unfairly, and illegally. If this is the complaint made tomorrow, are we going to say, no, we do not have the wherewithal? We are not ready. Let me have some time. I will give you advice, but let me study the matter. Let me study the law. Sorry, friends, this is not going to work. The abuse of powers, the abuse of the authority, the abuse of the discretionary power also will give rise to several legal causes. They have to be presented quickly, swiftly, and in an efficient manner. If we are not ready to meet these challenges, then we will be losing an opportunity. Sometimes pandemics, calamities, disasters present an opportunity. We have to grab. This opportunity has to be taken. This opportunity must be taken so as to even advance and develop the law, the jurisprudence. Therefore, the junior lot, to my mind, instead of folding up, should now wake, should be awake, and should now prepare themselves to take up such causes. The public will not only thank you, but will be ever grateful to you. Nobody else can do this. What can a doctor do? What can a surgeon do? What can others do? They can do everything except what a lawyer or an advocate can do. They are not going to bring justice to the doorstep of the litigant or the person who has suffered injustice. There are many friends who are waiting for this opportunity to meet you. Take it with both hands. Thank you. मला विनंती केलेली आहे की थोडंसं मराठीत पण बोलावं. आणि हे मी स्वतःहून म्हटलं होतं. याचं कारण असं आहे की माझ्या ग्रामीण भागातल्या मित्रांना मी हे सांगू इच्छितो की मी जे आता काही सगळं सांगितलं किंवा जे आतापर्यंत माझे विचार मांडले ते केवळ प्रतिथयश मोठ्या वकिलांसाठी किंवा शहरातल्या वकिलांसाठी नाही. ते ग्रामीण भागातल्या लोकांसाठीच आहेत. ते ग्रामीण भागातल्या वकिलांसाठी पण आहेत. आज शहरी आणि ग्रामीण हे सगळं पुसलं गेलेलं आहे. आपण सगळ्यांनी एक लक्षात घ्यावं की आपण आजवर जी लॉची प्रॅक्टिस केली किंवा जी वकिली केली त्याच्यामध्ये अंधानुकरण किती केलेलं आहे. शहरामध्ये जे प्रतिथयश वकील आहे त्यांचं अनुकरण करायचं पण चुकीच्या गोष्टींसाठी. त्यांच्याकडे असलेला पैसा, ते करत असलेली उधळपट्टी, त्यांच्याकडे असलेली संपत्ती, त्यांच्याकडे असलेली मालमत्ता ही आपल्याकडे कशी येईल याचा विचार न आपण आपल्या मेहनतीने येईल की नाही ह्याचा न करता आपण कर्ज काढत गेलो. कर्ज काढलं आणि सगळं काही घेतलं. गाडी घेतली, ऑफिस घेतलं, आपण कर्मचारी ठेवले आणि बँकांकडून कर्ज घेतल्यानंतर कर्जाची पूर्तता आपण करू शकलेलो नाही. हे 3 महिन्यात आपण कर्ज थकवलेलं आहे. आपण हप्त्यांची फेड करू शकलेलो नाही. त्यामुळे आज आपण दुःखी झालेलो आहोत. आपल्यापैकी बरेच जण असे आहेत की आवश्यकता नसताना आपण एकापेक्षा जास्त मोबाईल फोन, एकापेक्षा जास्त गाडी आणि आवश्यकतेपेक्षा जास्त जमा पुंजी केलेली आहे. आपण कामही असं घेतलेलं आहे की 10 ठिकाणी घेऊन ठेवलेलं आहे. मित्रांनो, मी आपल्याला विनंती करतो की सगळी समस्या जे ग्रामीण भागातल्या वकिलांची आहे ती शहरी भागातल्या वकिलांची पण आहे. सगळेच काय हायकोर्टात किंवा सुप्रीम कोर्टात वकिली करत नाहीत. शहरात सुद्धा मॅजिस्ट्रेट्सची कोर्ट आहेत. शहरात सुद्धा ग्राहक न्यायालय आहे. शहरात सुद्धा दिवाणी आणि सत्र न्यायालय आहे. शहरात सुद्धा फॅमिली कोर्ट आहे आणि जिथे फॅमिली कोर्ट नसेल तिथे डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्टात या केसेस चालतात. त्या सगळ्यांना या खालच्या कोर्टातच जावं लागतं. सगळेच काय एवढे नशीबवान नाही आहेत. त्यामुळे या समस्या आपल्या सगळ्यांच्या सारख्या आहेत. तरुण वर्गाच्या तर मी समस्या सारख्याच आहेत. मी त्यांनाही एक सांगू इच्छितो की त्यांनी एक प्रतिथयश वकिलाचं नाव ऐकलेलं असतं. त्याच्याकडे जायचं, त्यांनी आपल्याला सगळं काम द्यायचं किंवा आपण त्याच्या कार्यालयात शिकाऊ वकील, ज्युनियर वकील म्हणून रुजू व्हायचं. हे स्वप्न आपण पाहिलेलं असतं. त्याने काय होतं, अशा प्रतिथयश वकिलाच्या कार्यालयात 10-10, 12-12 ज्युनियर्स होतात. त्यांना सगळ्यांशी बोलायला चर्चा करायला वेळ मिळत नाही. संवाद तर सोडाच, त्यांना त्याच्याकडून काही शिकता येत नाही. अशा वेळेला आपण अशी काहीतरी सोय करावी जेणेकरून आपलं स्वतःचं काम जमा करावं. ते स्वतःचं काम असून बाकी वेळेला आपण आपला त्या माणसाकडनं शिकण्याची जी काही आपली इच्छा आहे ती पूर्ण करावी, थोडीशी आर्थिक सोय करावी. प्रतिदेश वकिलांच्या मागे केवळ त्यांच्या नावामुळे धावू नये. आपल्या स्वतःच्या क्षमतेवर, बुद्धीवर आपला आत्मविश्वास हवा. आणि हे आता कधी होणार आहे? काही काही जण आपल्यापैकी असे आहेत की जे 10-10, 12-12 वर्ष वकिली केलेली आहे, 15 वर्ष वकिली केलेली आहे. ते स्वतःच कधी केसेस चालवणार आहेत? कित्येक ठिकाणी मी पाहिलेलं आहे आणि मी माझ्या स्वतःच्या वकिलीचा अनुभव आपल्याला सांगतो की अशा अनेक न्यायालय होते जिथे कोणी जायला तयार नसेल. अशा अनेक जागा होत्या जिथे न्याय सदृश काम चालायचं, जिथे सुद्धा एखादं न्यायालयासारखं काम चालायचं, तिथे मंडळी जायला तयार नव्हती. मी हा अनुभव बरेचदा घेतलेला आहे. आपण तर भाग्यवान आहात, आपल्या काळामध्ये ट्रायब्युनलायझेशन ऑफ जस्टिस झालेलं आहे. सिव्हिल कोर्टाचे अधिकार सीमित झालेले आहेत. बरीचशी प्रकरणं ही सिव्हिल कोर्टाकडून आता ट्रायब्युनल्समध्ये गेलेली आहे. डेट रिकव्हरी ट्रायब्युनल एक असे ट्रायब्युनल आहे. नंतर आपण बघितलं असेल की अनेक अशा केसेस असतात ज्या लोकांना त्या त्या वेळेला म्हणजे आपलं जे प्रचलित न्यायव्यवस्था आहे त्याच्या बाहेर जाऊन न्याय मागण्यासाठी त्यांना हे जावं लागतं. ते प्रवृत्त होतात. मग त्यांना कलेक्टरच्या कार्यालयात जावं लागतं, कमिशनरच्या कार्यालयात जावं लागतं, म्युन्सिपल कमिशनरकडे जावं लागतं. अशी अनेक प्रकरणं आहेत. तिथे सुद्धा युक्तिवादाची संधी मिळते. पण अशी संधी किती लोक घेतात? ही घ्यायला हवी. आपण हे सोडलं पाहिजे की कोर्टांसमोर जी आज प्रचलित न्यायव्यवस्था आहे, प्रस्थापित जी आहे, तिथं जाऊन केलेला युक्तिवाद म्हणजे युक्तिवाद. लवादासमोर युक्तिवाद केला म्हणजे तो युक्तिवाद नाही. युक्तिवादाचं जे आपल्याला आनंद घ्यायचा आहे, युक्तिवादाचं जे सुख घ्यायचं आहे, जे भाग्य आपल्याला मिळवायचं आहे, ते आपण कुठंही अशा प्रकारचे जिथे अधिकार आहेत त्या अधिकाऱ्यांना त्यांना सांगून आपण त्यांच्या समोर आपलं म्हणणं पटवून देऊ शकतो आणि आपल्या पक्षकारांना न्याय मिळवून देऊ शकतो. अनेक ठिकाणी हे करताना लोक दिसत नाहीत. मी बहुतेक ट्रायब्युनल्समध्ये गेलेलो आहे. मी कस्टम्स एक्साइज गोल्ड कंट्रोल ॲपेलेट ट्रायब्युनल त्यावेळेला एक होतं. अतिशय व्यवस्थित काम करायचं. इन माय लाईफ आय हॅव सीन द मोस्ट प्रोफेशनल अँड कॉम्पिटंट ट्रिब्युनल, वन ऑफ द मोस्ट, डिस्चार्जिंग ऑल द फंक्शन्स, ज्युडिशियल फंक्शन्स इन द मोस्ट एफिशियंट मॅनर. तिथे काय व्हायचं? कुठलाही गाजावाजा नाही, काही नाही. आपण प्रकरण दाखल केलं की दोन आठवड्यानंतर आपल्याला तारीख देण्यात यायची. त्याच्याही पेक्षा काही असेल घाई आणि त्याच्यामुळे जिकरी काहीतरी निकड असेल तर आपण सांगू शकायचं. अन्यथा 2 आठवड्यानंतर जी तारीख दिलेली आहे त्या तारखेला आपण हजर राहिला नाही तर प्रकरणात एकतर्फी निकाल होऊन जायचा बरेच वेळा, किंवा प्रकरण पुढे तारखेला टाकलं जायचं. कमीत कमी वेळेला आपल्याला, ज्याला आपण ऍडजस्टमेंट म्हणतो किंवा तारखा म्हणतो, त्या मिळायच्या. उरलेल्या वेळेला कामं इतकी व्यवस्थित चालायची की दिवसभरामध्ये आपलं किती काम आटपलं याचा सुद्धा आपल्याजवळ लेखाजोखा ठेवायला वेळ नसायचा. आणि ते 5 तास काम करायचे, पण त्या 5 तासात कधीही वेळ घालवलेला मला तरी आठवला नाही. असे अनेक न्यायाधिकरण आहेत ज्याला आपण ट्रायब्युनल्स म्हणतो. तिथं आपण जाऊन आपले प्रकरण चालवली पाहिजे. तारखा घेता कामा नाही. आता यापुढे काही गोष्टी आपण ठरवल्या पाहिजे की आपला वेळ गेलाय ना, आपला पैसा गेलाय, आपल्याला निराशा आली आहे, आता यापुढे मी तारखा कमीत कमी मागेन, मी हजर राहीन, मी प्रकरणं चालवेन आणि मी पूर्ण तयारीनिशीच न्यायालयात जाईन. मी दालनात जाण्यापूर्वी कुठंही असं करणार नाही की जेणेकरून त्या कृत्यामुळे ते प्रकरण त्या दिवशी चालणार नाही. आपल्याला काहीतरी आता आपल्या ह्याच्यात बदल करावा लागणार आहे. तो बदल आपण करायला हवा. तो बदल करताना आपल्याला थोडं काही त्रास होईल, अडचणी होतील, परंतु तो बदल आता आवश्यक आहे. काळानुरूप बदलावं लागेल. ज्या ज्या वेळेला ज्या ज्या प्रकरणांमध्ये आपल्याला असं दिसतंय की आपल्याला जाणता येणार नाहीये, तिथं हजर राहता येणार नाही, तिथं मग तंत्रज्ञानाचा वापर करावा लागणार आहे. तंत्रज्ञान शिकून घ्यावं लागणार आहे. त्यासाठी हे सगळं आपण अजून थोडा वेळ आपल्याजवळ जो आहे शिल्लक त्यामध्ये आत्मसात करून घ्या. या सगळ्याशी आपण अवगत झालात की मग आपली जी काही प्रॅक्टिस आहे ती आपल्याला सुलभ होईल. आपल्याला अशी पुढे निराशा येणार नाही आणि असं काही वाटणार नाही. ह्याची सोय आता करायला हवी. पुढेही असं कसे प्रसंग आलेत, तर अशा प्रसंग आल्यानंतर आपण कोलमडून पडणार नाही. आपल्यासोबत आपलं कुटुंबही उद्ध्वस्त होणार नाही, याकडे आपण लक्ष दिलं पाहिजे. सगळ्यात शेवटी तब्येतीकडे तर दिलंच पाहिजे. आपण आतापर्यंत पाहत असाल की पुष्कळ बेजबाबदारपणा इतरांसारखा वकील मंडळी करत असत. वेळेवर खाणं नाही, जेवण नाही, घरी जाऊन पुरेशी झोप नाही, आणि त्यामुळे आपल्या शरीरावर होणारे परिणाम, विपरीत परिणाम, हे सगळे आपण पाहिलेले आहेत. आपली व्यसनं सुद्धा पाहिलेली आहेत. ती सुद्धा आपली आता सुटली पाहिजेत. त्या व्यसनांमुळे धोका पुष्कळ उत्पन्न होतो. आपला पैसा त्याच्यात फार गेलेला आहे, वेळही गेलेला आहे. आणखीन एक व्यसन आपल्याला फार वाईट जडलेलं आहे, आणि हे ग्रामीण भागातल्या, शहरी भागातल्या सगळ्यांनाच जडलेलं आहे. आपल्याला सुद्धा निवडणुकीच्या राजकारणाची खुमखुमी आहे. आपण सुद्धा या जिल्हा तालुका बार असोसिएशन, मग आपलं बार काउन्सिल यांच्या निवडणुकांमध्ये अति रस घेतो. अनावश्यक असा आपला तिथे सगळा वेळ जातो. मला समजत नाही की ती सत्तेची पदं कधी झाली. मी मुंबई हायकोर्टामध्ये जेव्हा प्रॅक्टिस करायला लागलो, तेव्हा मला सांगण्यात आलं की सुरुवातीलाच बाबा हे कर, त्या अपेलेट साईडच्या ॲडव्होकेट असोसिएशन ऑफ वेस्टर्न इंडियाचा मेंबर होऊ नकोस, सदस्य होऊ नकोस, तुला निवडणुकीचं व्यसन जडेल. ओरिजिनल साईडला आम्ही पाहत होतो, कधीही निवडणूक झाली नाही. झाली तर ती इतकी खेळीमेळीची की कुठेही कटुता राहिली नाही. कधी निवडणूक झाली आणि आटोपली हेही कळलं नाही. प्रचार नाही, कुठे लोकांना बोलून पार्ट्या जोडणं नाही, कुठे कोणाला प्रलोभनं दाखवणे नाही, कुठली आश्वासनं नाही. इतके प्रथितयश वकील पण शांतपणे आपलं काम करत असत. त्यांचं काम करण्याचं, त्यांच्या निवडणुका, हे बार काउन्सिलला सुद्धा एक धडा होता. पण बार काउन्सिल काही फार त्याच्यातनं शिकलं नाही. आपण बघितलं असेल, आपण उद्ध्वस्त होतो बऱ्याच वेळा या निवडणुकीच्या ह्याच्यात. केवळ निवडणुका या आपल्या बारच्या नसतात, तर आपल्या इतरही निवडणुकांमध्ये फार रस असतो. ते सगळं आता सोडलं पाहिजे. देर इज नो प्लेस फॉर पार्ट टाइम ॲडव्होकसी. ॲडव्होकसी इज नॉट अ पास टाइम. आपल्याला फुल टाइम ॲडव्होकसी करावी लागणार आहे, आणि त्यावर आपण लक्ष केंद्रित केलं पाहिजे. मी काही जरा जास्त बोललो असेल तर क्षमा करा. धन्यवाद.
Thank you, sir. In these trying times, your session is seriously a ray of hope for all the junior advocates and advocates at large. Sir, there are many questions that have been pouring from all corners of Maharashtra. Coming to the first question, which comes from Advocate Shamli Gadre. The question goes, sir, not only junior advocate, but some advocates with more than 10 years are experiencing hardships, as firms have not paid salaries from lockdown, despite working from home. There are some firms which are like 150-year-old, but they are turning a deaf ear to their plight in spite of raising bills. How do I deal with this?
On several occasions, I have been speaking to renowned lawyers, old solicitor firms, law offices, advocates who are practicing in a group or in partnership, that those of them who have been doing well, who have built a practice, who have a solid financial base, must now release their purse. The strings of their purse will have to be loosened so as to pay. We'll have to bail out each other now. If some firms are unable to even pay the salaries of the staff, particularly the non-legal staff, the advocate assistants, then 4 or 5 firms can bail out each other. It may not be necessary a loan, but in these times, you can pool in the funds and resources so as to at least pay these salaries. A lot of sacrifices will have to be made, and legal profession is known for such sacrifices. I have seen in my junior days, my seniors foregoing or sacrificing their fees and telling the clients or the briefing lawyers that they should pay a junior like me. This will have to be done. We must have these examples now and set them for others to follow. I would request lot many others, and particularly those who have been writing letters to the Chief Justice of India and to the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, that they have built up solid practice. They must now loosen their purse and strings of their purse. They must also put hands in their pocket and help the juniors in these times. I'm sure they must be helping, and more such people should come forward.
Noted, sir. The second question is on a similar line, sir. It comes from Advocate Ishwari Mangave, who is from Kolhapur. And the question goes, COVID-19 has affected the country adversely when one talks about the financial condition around. Being a junior lawyer, our stipend is very low. How can we cope up with this crisis, sir?
I have already answered this question. मी आपल्याला सांगितलंय, आपल्याला थोडे खर्च कमी करावे लागतील. काही खर्च जर अगदीच अनावश्यक असतील तर त्याला फाटा दिला पाहिजे. आता जर थोडंसं आपल्याला त्याग करावा लागणार आहे, मात्र आपल्याला एक लक्षात येईल की काही अंशी हे आपण सुद्धा याला कारणीभूत असतो. मी असं म्हणत नाही की आपलं जे उदाहरण आहे ते तशातलं आहे. आपलं जे उदाहरण आहे ते उदाहरण इतरांच्या समोर प्रश्नरूपाने माझ्याकडे आलेलं आहे. आपल्याला अनेक लोकांनी मदत करावी अशी अपेक्षा आहे. आपण आपला नेमका जो काही हे असेल, जी अडचण असेल, ती जर आपण वैज्ञानिक साहेबांकडे सांगितली तर त्याला काही तोडगा काढता येईल, आणि तसा तो मिळत असेल तर मी निश्चित आपल्याला मदत करेन. मात्र आपण एक लक्षात घ्या की आता हा स्टायपेंड जो आपण म्हणत आहात हा लगेच काही वाढणार नाही. लगेच काही लोकांचे पगार वाढणार नाहीत. थोडंसं आपण असा अभ्यास करा की जे पायी चाललेत 1800 किलोमीटर ते 2100 किलोमीटर, त्यांच्यापेक्षा तर आपली हालत किंवा स्थिती थोडी बरी आहे. आपल्याला एक वेळेला तर जेवायला मिळत आहे. त्यांच्याकडे पाहून जर आपल्याला लक्षात येतं की अशा काळामध्ये जिथे आता उद्योग व्यवसाय सुरू होऊ शकत नाही, आज केवळ 40% उद्योग सुरू झालेले आहेत लॉकडाऊन संपल्यानंतर सुद्धा. कारण तिथे काम करणारे मजूर जे आहेत ते गावी निघून गेलेले आहेत. ते परत येण्याची शक्यता नाही. तिथे नवीन मजदूर येणार नाही. त्यामुळे तो व्यवसाय, तो उद्योग काही चालेल किंवा फारसा चालेल असं वाटत नाही. तिथेही तोटे येणारच आहेत. तेव्हा हे सगळं झाल्यानंतर आपल्याकडे जर आपल्याला असं वाटत असेल की आपला तनखा, आपले वेतन वाढेल, तर ती शक्यता नाही. आपल्याला थोडंफार दुसरीकडे पाहावं लागेल. आणि मी अनेकांना सांगत असतो की घरामध्ये जो काही व्यवसाय असेल, मग शेती जरी असेल, तो पूर्णपणे बंद करू नका. काही वेळेला आपण जर शिकवू शकत असू मुलांना किंवा कायद्याचं ज्ञान देऊ शकत असू, त्या स्थितीत असू, तर तेही करायला हरकत नाही. आणि बाकी आज खूपच वैयक्तिक आपल्याला अडचण असेल तर आपण सरळ इथं न मांडता ती आपल्या वकील मित्रांमार्फत माझ्याकडे पाठवा. मी काही त्याच्यात तोडगा निघेल का बघेन.
Thank you, sir. Noted, sir. Advocate Porosh Shah, Mumbai, and Advocate Padmini Ainapure have a similar question, sir. In the present situation, there are restrictions on advocates who come to courts. Only the senior advocates or an advocate having a case on that particular day can go to court. How will the junior advocates learn if they aren't allowed to join with their seniors?
I hold no brief for any seniors or for any matter for the judges or the court administration. But kindly give concrete examples. Whether you have experienced this or not, please inform. Don't go by general assumptions. You see, assumptions have no place. Presumptions have. Presumptions are statute based. You can't assume several things unless you have experienced all this yourself. If you have a concrete case of you not getting an opportunity to get your case listed, or that your case was similarly placed and there was a discrimination by your client, please take such examples, make them a subject matter of challenge, take up the challenge to the administrative circulars. There is a judgment of the Supreme Court reported in AIR 2011, Supreme Court 708. Law has to be studied, research has to be done. There the Kerala High Court issued a blanket order directing the magistrates not to insist on personal physical presence of the accused in cases under the Section 138 NI Act. The Supreme Court said not even the High Court, the highest court, even the Supreme Court of India also will not be able to control the discretion of the magistrate. It is entirely for the magistrate to exercise his powers under Section 205 of the CRPC and pass appropriate orders. So orders of discretionary nature have to be passed by the particular court. You can't rely on any blanket direction or an administrative circular. It all depends upon judge to judge, court to court. If you have experienced something like this at the hands of a particular court, in a particular court or a judge, make that a subject matter of challenge. Be bold. Only using such platforms is not going to help you and your litigants.
येस सर. पुढचे 2 प्रश्न मराठीत आलेत सर आपल्याकडे. पहिला प्रश्न अमळनेरून आलेला आहे, ॲडव्होकेट अशोक बाविस्कर यांचा. केस व्हेरिफिकेशन नंतर कागदपत्र 24 ते 36 तास व जास्तीत जास्त 72 तासांकरता आयसोलेशन करता ठेवण्यात येतात व त्यानंतरच न्यायाधीश त्या कागदांना हाताळतील. वकील मात्र पक्षकारांची कागदपत्रे हाताळणार. तो पक्षकार कंटेनमेंट झोन मधनं आला आहे किंवा नाही हे देखील वकिलांना माहीत नसणार. अशा वेळी सर्वात मोठी जोखीम ही वकील घेणार आहेत. त्यांच्या सुरक्षिततेची जबाबदारी बार काउन्सिलवर व आपण निवडून दिलेल्या सभासदांची व सरकारची देखील आहे. त्यासाठी त्यांनी काही उपाययोजना केल्यात किंवा कराव्यात, आपले मत सर.
मी आपल्याला आधीपासून सांगतोय, दुसऱ्या वेळेला मी आपल्या समोर आलेलो आहे. काही वेळेला पहिल्या वेळेला लोकांनी ऐकलं नसेल की ही भीती जी आहे किती अनाठाई आहे बघा. वर्तमानपत्र आता सुरू झालेली आहेत. वर्तमानपत्रांचं छापणं आणि वितरण सुरू झालेलं आहे. ज्या वेळेला माझ्यासारख्या इथे माणूस जो 61 वर्षाचा वयाचा होतो आहे, मुंबई सारख्या ठिकाणी आहे जिथे 1 लाखावर केसेस होतील काही दिवसात, त्या व्यक्तीला आता वर्तमानपत्र हाताळताना काहीही होणार नाही. वर्तमानपत्र टाकणारा, वर्तमानपत्र छापणारा, त्या छापखान्यातून निघून त्या वर्तमानपत्र वितरण करणाऱ्याच्या हातात ते देणाऱ्या अनेकांच्या हातातून ते कागद जाणार आहेत आणि शेवटी माझ्या हातात येणार आहेत. कागदांमधून, कपड्यांमधून हे सगळं पसरतं अशी भीती आपल्याला दाखवलेली आहे. ही भीती खोटी आहे असं जर आपलं मत असेल तर तज्ञांचं मत घ्या आणि ही भीती खोटी होती हे सिद्ध करा. हे जाऊन आपल्याला सिद्ध करावं लागणार आहे. त्या न्यायाधीशांना सांगावं लागणार आहे. न्यायाधीश सुद्धा काय, वकील सुद्धा काय, कर्मचारी सुद्धा काय, ही माणसं आहेत. आणि कोविडनी माणसं सहज एकदम मृत्यू पावत नाही, हे आपण पाहिलेलं आहे. तर त्यावेळेला आपण ही भीती खोटी आहे, ही अनाठाई आहे, हे आपल्या वर्तनातनं दाखवतो आहोत. ते जाऊन आपल्याला दुसऱ्यांना दाखवून द्यावं लागेल. त्यासाठी आपण डॉक्टर लोकांची मदत घ्या. एक तिथं बार असोसिएशननी काही डॉक्टरांना आमंत्रित करावं, वैद्यकीय तज्ञांना त्यांच्याकडून सल्ला घ्यावा, त्यांच्याकडून हे समजून घ्यावं, तरच ही भीती जाईल. हा भीतीचा प्रकार आहे, दुसरं काही नाही. 72 तास ते कागद ठेवून काय त्याच्यामध्ये आपल्याला अनेक आजार झालेले आहेत. मी न्यायाधीश होतो तेव्हा मी सांगतो की कागदपत्र हातात घेतल्यानंतर फार कमी सहकारी होते मी धरून की जे खोकलायला सुरुवात नाही झाली. काही झालेलं नसताना आम्हाला खोकला यायचा, त्यातनं प्रचंड धूळ जायची. ते ज्या प्रकारे ठेवलेले असतात, जसे ते हाताळले जातात, तिथून कितीतरी रोग होऊ शकतात. अनेक रोगी माणसं ते हाताळत असतात, रोगी माणसं ते आमच्याकडे पोहोचवत असतात. पण आता ही भीती जी आपल्या मनात आहे, जी घर करून बसली आहे, ती घालवायची असेल तर तज्ञांची मदत घेतली पाहिजे. मानसोपचार तज्ञांची पण घेतली पाहिजे. मी तर म्हणेन त्यांनाही बोलवलं पाहिजे. हे कुठेतरी प्रयत्न सुरू करा. तालुका जिल्हा बार असोसिएशन करावे. न्यायाधीशांशी चर्चा करावी, कर्मचारी वर्गाशी चर्चा करावी, तोडगा काढला पाहिजे याच्यावर.
धन्यवाद सर. पुढचा प्रश्न डॉक्टर नरेंद्र जावळे यांच्याकडून आहे. सध्याची सतत बदलणारी सामाजिक परिस्थिती, ढासळणारी मूल्ये आणि बदलती जीवनशैली यामध्ये नवीन वकील वर्गाने स्वतःला आदर्श कसे ठेवावे?
आदर्शांची कमी नाही आहे. आपल्याकडे अनेक छायाचित्र असतात अनेक ठिकाणी लावलेली. आता तशी छायाचित्र कमी झाली आहेत म्हणून आपल्याला वाटतं की आदर्श कमी झाले आहेत. आपली पिढी ही आदर्श नसेल, पण आपल्या आधीची पिढी होती आणि अनेक वकील यांनीच आपल्या स्वातंत्र्य आंदोलनात एवढा मोठा भाग त्यांचा होता, सहभाग होता, म्हणून आपल्याला स्वातंत्र्य मिळू शकलं आहे. त्यामुळे वकिलांना त्यांच्यासमोर आदर्श नाहीत असं त्यांनी म्हणू नये. आजही कित्येक वकील आहेत ज्यांची अभ्यास करण्याची वृत्ती, ज्यांची संशोधक वृत्ती, ज्यांचं वागणं, ज्यांचं बोलणं, ज्यांचं पक्षकारांशी आणि इतरांशी संवाद साधण्याची कला, हे सगळं शिकण्यासारखं आहे. भरपूर आदर्श आहेत. आदर्शांची कुठेही कमी दिसत नाही मला समाजात. मात्र आपल्याला ते शोधावे लागतात. बरेच वेळा आपल्याला त्याच्याबद्दल माहिती करून घ्यावी लागते. आपल्याला माहिती मिळवता येते आणि आपल्याला वाचताही येतं. वाचन घेतलं, हातात पुस्तक घेतलं आणि वाचलं तर अनेकांची चरित्र आपल्या समोर आहेत. ती वाचायला सुरुवात केली पाहिजे.
धन्यवाद sir. I'll go to the next question, sir, which comes from Advocate Pankaj Khandari. The district court or the taluka courts are not taking or hearing matters wherein litigants are not required in court. He gives a few examples: mutual consent divorce case, issuance of succession certificate, matters of seized vehicles during lockdown, matters in which the collector have submitted reports to the court demarcating the boundaries of joint properties where only a decree needs to be passed. Such matters are not taken for hearing. Some directions are necessary from the higher authorities to the lower courts. Your take, sir.
Two things can be done. All these instances can be catalogued. They can be taken from all the courts throughout Maharashtra. A request can be made on the administrative side to the High Court to issue appropriate directions through the through the principal district and session judge. I feel that whenever these matters were listed before me, on occasions it was said they are extremely urgent. When this request was made and the matter was taken up, the intent was to push through the consent terms. Anything that was thought to be pushed through alarms the court. The court, if it is not ready, it will adjourn it. If the court it is ready, it would say, where is your client? Put him in the box. I want to ask him one or two questions. Now the consent terms may be a contract between the parties, but when an order in terms of those consent arrangements or agreements are sought, then you are seeking approval or the imprimatur of the court on that. The court has to apply its mind. The court must be satisfied that the consent terms do not violate any provision of law or public policy. Then alone the court says that these arrangements are fair, just and proper, and an order can be made based on that consent of parties. Now this requires application of mind. On occasions, the court may be flooded with some other cases. On occasions, it may be that the technology and everything else that is provided to the court or is at its disposal is not adequate. Let me tell you, there are pragmatic difficulties also faced in courts nowadays. अखंड वीज हे आपलं स्वप्न आहे. अखंड वीज, uninterrupted power supply, is not a reality. On occasions you find disruptions. On occasions you have 20, 30 cases and you have been provided an infrastructure in the form of the technological devices which say that you have to finish this much work in 2 hours. Otherwise the technology may break down. Now what happens? The judge will have to prioritize. Now, leaving aside such cases, if blanket things of this nature have come to your notice, kindly catalog them, make a written representation to on the administrative side to the Chief Justice. And if the appropriate authorities or competent authorities are not cooperating, because this will require the cooperation of collector and everybody else, the revenue authorities, the municipal authorities, everybody, then you can present a case in the form of a PIL before the High Court and keep it pending till such time as these matters are sorted out. What should be given priority? Ordinarily, how the norms have to be set and how they have to be applied. What standards should be set must also be will also then get decided in such a litigation. You will have to make an endeavor towards that.
Noted, sir. The next question comes from Advocate Aishwarya Vashikar. The question goes, sir, how will a junior advocate who has started practicing law last year or just recently come to know about the procedures followed in courts given the present COVID-19 situation?
The court offices are not open, according to you. There is no staff. You will not be able to familiarize yourself or get acquainted with the procedural aspects. Surely, you have the Code of Civil Procedure. You have the Code of Criminal Procedure with you. You have the civil and criminal manuals with you. You also have the information technology with you. You also have the Right to Information Act at your command. You can get all the details or information with regard to court procedure from the court websites. If this is not adequate, then kindly go and contact one of those persons who was till recently a serving official in the district court. At least I can tell you with my experience that those who are working as clerks in advocates' offices, those who are working in the department like testamentary department in the High Court, those retired officers have been of immense help to me. They have explained to me all the procedures. And even now, after their retirement, they are very keen to help juniors. You must go and approach them. Find out from somebody, such retired officers, and go and approach them. Request them to hold some sort of a session like this for you.
Noted, sir. The next question comes from a law student named Sagar. Post-COVID-19 situation, if the corporate players prefer to avoid getting into litigation at all costs and go for arbitration or mediation, would that mean litigation is grinding to a halt? And then what should the junior advocates do in this regard?
Litigation cannot come to a grinding halt. You kindly provide me the data of those arbitration awards which have been rendered in arbitrations, those reports of the mediators which have been accepted by parties and they were fully satisfied with the outcome. Even arbitration awards and reports and opinions of mediators are challenged. We are not going to give up so easily. We know the mind of the public. There is one party to a litigation which does not accept an adverse verdict. It does not accept it so easily. It wants to exhaust all the remedies available. It will go and indulge in frivolous litigation. You mean to say that 4,60,000 cases which are pending in the High Court at Bombay at its principal seat and together with its benches have been gathered like this only? There is no tendency to litigate. Even in the pending matters, knowing fully the outcome that we are going to be at the receiving end or end up as a loser, the parties do not give up. All delaying tactics, everything is adopted. So do not feel so dejected and frustrated. Otherwise, you see at the positive side, assisting an arbitrator or a mediator to come at a fair and a just decision is also the job of an advocate. Why does he feel that this is not the job which he is required to perform? This is not a professional duty. So many people appear before arbitrators. Advocates appear. They are not prohibited. Why do you feel like that litigation will come to a grinding halt? There are 40 lakh cases pending today in the trial courts in Maharashtra. In fact, people like you if you are coming forward, I would readily welcome your participation in this. How else we will reduce this number? This number is not going to be reduced. 130 crore populated country, we have only 4 or 5 crore cases pending in all courts. That doesn't mean there is no injustice. There's a lot of injustice. Not everybody has easy access to justice. So nothing is going to come to a grinding halt. Not in the least the profession of the advocate.
Thank you, sir. The last question comes from Advocate Trupti Bharadi, and she likes to know, sir, your experience as a junior and your approach towards your senior, the honorable judges and your colleagues.
My experience as a junior, as is common to everybody, a mixed one. First of all, I must tell you that you go to the office of a senior advocate who has only practice of not preparing, but arguing cases, who's senior enough and who's only arguing cases or is engaged for advice and arguments in cases, then you learn little. You must go to advocates who do not have a very large practice, the middle or the medium sized, those who have time for you, those who still go through the procedural hurdles themselves. They file their wakalatnamas. They themselves go and do the filing with the help of their clerks and their juniors. Then alone you pick up these nuances in law practice. I have also learned when I was attending the court, sometimes how not to argue, how not to behave. So you have varied experiences as a junior. And when I went through a lawyer's office, let me tell you, the law firms or the solicitor firms were not paying any stipend. I was an advocate assistant, but I was not paid anything. From the year 1983, I started going to the law firm before I became an advocate. But after I got my sanat, till about 2 years, I was not paid a single farthing. But when I was associated with that firm and they saw the potential in me that I could draft, I could give something in writing to an advocate, to another advocate, say in the form of a request to provide me the inspection of documents which his client is going to rely upon in a case as an adversary. When they saw me corresponding with the authorities, when they saw my interaction with the briefed counsel or advocates, they thought that there is some potential. They will be able to eliminate, if not altogether, minimize their costs if they invest something in me. So then they gave me the drafting briefs. With the drafting briefs, they told the litigants that please pay the drafting fees directly to him. And that is how a little earning started after 3 years. But first 5 years, there were no earnings. And one could wait only because the times were different. I will not say that everybody will be in a position to wait today. But the patience pays. Secondly, when you go through these procedural things, you realize that there is something which is very thrilling as well as a great learning experience. I had seen the people going to villages in the actual beating of drums to inform the villagers that there will be an acquisition of a particular land, and the whole thing in a procession going there, beating the drums, informing the public, pasting all that on the outer doors or on the panchayat office or a prominent place, going to the newspapers offices, getting the notices published. This was all a great learning experience for me. I do not know how many of you go through this, but if you are not going to go through this, what you will always remember is that you are toiling, you are working, but there is no money. We, during the course of the day, on one cup of tea or some small meal, with all this coming together and going and visiting places, forget some hunger also. On occasions, we would go without food for quite some time. This was a matter which one picked up. Several other things were picked up by working with very eminent senior counsel, very good and competent trial lawyers. I would advise everybody to go and practice first in the trial courts. The trial courts are where the foundation is laid. It is the trial court's effort, the trial court's functioning, on which the whole edifice or structure of the higher courts is built. If that is weak, if that foundation collapses, the whole edifice or structure is bound to collapse. We must strengthen our trial courts. And for that, you must have thorough knowledge of your procedural and substantive laws, particularly the law of evidence. One must understand that law of evidence contains, the Evidence Act contains the rules of evidence. Rules of evidence may not apply to a particular litigation before a tribunal or before an arbitrator, but law of evidence applies. There's a difference. All rules which are there in the Evidence Act may not apply, but the law applies. What is evidence only can be acted upon. What is not evidence cannot be acted upon. All this was a learning experience if one saw trials. I was fortunate because trials were going on in the High Court. Before we conclude, I'll tell you of one incident. There was one particular sitting judge in the Bombay High Court who refused to, who never got up, even when there was a phone call. A terrorist would intimidate, threaten the court administration that particular part of the building will be blown up. When it came to the dog squad and all those police machinery, this judge would say, you have your exercise carried out. I am not going to get up from the dais. I am going to conduct my court. He would just wait, let them finish the job and the matters would go on. This very judge conducted a full-fledged trial during the riots post demolition of Babri Masjid. The courage, the fortitude, the strength that he showed gave others also lot of strength to come and argue cases, even during these times. Though Bombay Bandh, no flooding, nothing mattered to him. And everybody would say, oh sir, this was the criticism for him also. He received, his plate was full. You sir, stay across the road, you come in a car, you are carried to the court. We poor people, we victims, how do we carry on our affairs? Said, sorry, the court cannot be complete without you. If you don't want to come, I will do my job. There are people, and he would remind us that his chowkidars, his staff, his stenographers, the person opening the court doors are all coming from far off places. But if they have managed to come, you can also come. Now, this pandemic, I remember all those times. How we have given up so easily. And that is why we have all these questions.
Rightly pointed out, sir. There's a lot that we are taking from this session, sir. I'm definitely taking a lot, and I'm sure the junior advocates too are taking a lot back with them. Be it your holistic approach regarding the mental health, the physical health, and the opportunity that every young lawyer needs to grab, because opportunity knocks at your door only once. Thank you so much, sir. Now I call upon Advocate Ajay Naik to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Priyanka ma'am. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on the occasion. I, on behalf of Nike Association, in the collaboration with Vidhivet, extend my sincere vote of thanks to Honorable Justice S.C. Dharmadhikari sir, who consented for his presence to deliver the lecture on this platform. Thank you very much, sir, for the deliver the lecture on this platform. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your view and valuable suggestion that the junior advocate will have to embrace to overcome the challenges and face the rough road ahead. I seriously hope to see you again on our platform delivering on the another important topics. I would like to extend a thank to our organizing team, Advocate Abhinandan Vagyani sir, Advocate Prashant More sir, Advocate Priyanka Rane Patil ma'am. Let's last but not least, I would thank all our participants for attending this webinar. Now, Justice Dharmadhikari sir, kindly grant us permission to conclude the webinar.
Yes.